thank you so much for hosting us here in the historic Churchill Rooms in His Majesty's Treasury. I'm here with the Minister for AI, and we're going to talk about what sovereign AI is doing in the first of, we hope, many interviews in conversation with people who are shaping sovereign AI in this country and beyond.
Great to be here, James.
So perhaps we should start with the obvious question. What does the Minister for AI do?
Yeah. Well, look, AI is the defining technology in our lifetime. It is defining for our economy, for our national security, but importantly, how we relate to each other as humans as well. So there are two parts to my job. One, make sure the UK captures all the opportunity of AI, makes us more prosperous, makes us more secure. But alongside that, in the online safety part of it, to make sure that we do so in a way that people trust and that feels like they add to the human experience rather than detract from it.
And very specifically in the Sovereign AI Unit, we're focused on a part of that, right? Part of the sort of AI infrastructure stack. But sovereign AI, I mean, this term over the last year is probably one of the most contested, debated, most interesting ones globally in this sector. How do you think about the way Britain should approach sovereign AI?
Britain's strength has always been in being an outward-looking country which builds on core strengths but is able to engage internationally in a very proactive way as well. So for me, sovereignty is about three things. For a critical technology like AI, first and foremost, making sure we have enough of the things that really matter. If you need chips for AI, which you critically do, you need to just have enough of the chips before you worry about where those chips are coming from. So that first access point is really critical. The second point is, in order to have both insurance on it long term and get the right pricing, you need to make sure you have some leverage. And so diversifying where you're getting the critical inputs is really important as well. And that's why early in my job, I went both internationally and in specific countries like the United States, working very closely with a range of companies to diversify a provision for critical inputs. And the third layer is in areas of key strength, make sure you're building full fat British. Make sure that you have both the teams here, the top talent here, the IP here, and ultimately the incorporation of companies so that we are able to benefit not just from the technology, from the economic upside as well.
And obviously you're working towards many different parts of that stack, the three layers that you mentioned. What role and what kind of outcomes do you think the Sovereign AI Unit will be able to play in this, and where will we be able to end up?
Yeah, well, there's an initial sense, which is I want the Sovereign AI Unit to incrementally anchor more and more companies here. So if you're someone building an exceptional company, but you have a team in the United States as well, every time you make the next decision on a team member or on a particular product that you want to build, we want sovereign AI to tip the balance in the UK's favor. And so that's where we want to start off. And then if I look at it from the other end of the lens of what would feel like total success in 5 years' time for the Sovereign AI Unit, for me, it's about having multiple companies that are absolutely defining the future of global AI, built here, staying here, scaling here, and not doing so with any sense of compromise about the quality of the outcome. And so multiple trillion-dollar AI companies built here in the United Kingdom in 5 years' time as a result of sovereign AI's activity.
And we've already started conversations with founders that have been going on for sort of the last 6 months as we set up this unit. And so we're now reaching this critical juncture, our launch. When you look at sort of what's happening in the UK ecosystem so far, since you've become minister in particular, what are you excited about?
Yeah, I feel strongly, James, that a lot of the inputs, so capital, compute, government as a customer, clarity of regulation, across all of these key inputs, we've been making a lot of progress. And in the last few months, I feel like a lot of that has come together to define the most important thing, which is culture. I think people are now feeling like Britain's got its kind of takeoff moment when it comes to AI. So to me, that is the big thing. We are in this cultural moment in Britain where we have a deep premium on a belief in agency, on a belief that if you just have this huge sense of imagination, you can build the biggest possible thing in Britain, and in doing so, change the future of this country. Sovereign AI, I think, strikes in exactly the right cultural moment as a result of that as well.
Because it's really struck me since I've come in to just help set up the institute and the unit and also some of the structures here, how much interest there is from the community in what we're doing and what you've been doing, and how willing people are to get engaged to support it. But obviously, more importantly, for what we're focused on, it's the founders and engineers here in the UK who've been reaching out. They want to know what we're doing. They want to engage. They've been critical, really, in the way we've defined our offer and have we thought about the kind of people we want to hire and the kind of things we want to do. And now we've got to figure out what pieces and where the government continue to support.
What are some of the things that you think are really important in how sovereign AI is going to work as a really high quality partner the best in tier sort of venture type partner to founders in this country?
So we're trying to get that balance right. This is absolutely critical, right? There's been lots of ways that government supported technology companies and AI companies over the last decade, and they've been really appreciated. And so we've been looking for what more we can do. One of those key pieces has been bringing in people from the community, from, in particular, people with venture background who are used to working with early stage startups, who are used to working with founders, providing both the speed and understanding of an individual's needs and a company's needs, and who've been doing that, we hope, for maybe a decade or more. So I've been really focused on that piece, and government have been incredibly supportive in giving us the ability to not just bring in people with those expertise, but also to give them agency, as you said, to give them the ability to write these checks, to find the founders, to make decisions with the proper governance procedures around them. So that piece, that's been really reassuring. That's been one of the things entrepreneurs have been asking for. But they've also been asking for leverage on top of all the assets government has already. And I think that's the piece which, mostly I've been working recently with founders who are really keen to learn more. And VCs initially were like, well, what is this new thing? And now they see the excitement of the founders, and now they're coming to us saying, oh, wow, this is really interesting. And capital is important. I think what's been really reassuring is, we have great grants and research support in this country, whether that's through UKRI, Innovate UK, and others. That's a fantastic, and our university system, that's fantastic. It's always been fantastic in Britain. And then there is this amount of capital, which, yes, you read these big fundraisers that are happening, AI companies raising billions of dollars. Now, of course, those are the really successful ones, and we want to support them as well. But there's plenty of companies out there where it is harder to raise. You're in a new area, in a novel area. And so the capital as well that sort of AI can provide, sort of the £500 million or so of equity capital, which we're going to be putting into companies, really helps as well. And there's a big difference between getting a grant from government and getting an investment. And I think the unique thing we'll be doing at this early stage, at least for the UK, is being on the cap table, being active, providing capital, knowing that we're incentivized as well to perform. It's not just a grant and forget, it's a invest and support offer.
Going back to this culture point that I was making, you'll have seen this meme online of initially London maxing, and then people realize this is more global, more happening across the country. And so we're truly in the spirit of Brit maxing. One thing I'm always very interested in is how we have this intense sense of moving at speed and moving at scale, but also that we move with a sense of direction. And I've been talking about how I consistently find the sort of slop to science ratio radically better in Britain in the favor of science, whereas it's much more in the favor of slop in the Bay Area. What have you observed in what British taste means in terms of the sorts of founders who come and build their life's work here?
Yeah, so the UK has got a phenomenal research base. It's also home to all of the biggest labs. Their second home in some cases. Something like 90% of the AI companies that raise a Series C in the US, their first international office is the UK. Right? It's based in the UK. And so there's these great engineers who've had experience working here. There's this great research base, and it generally means that the kind of models, the infrastructure, the applications they're working on do lean more towards this science-led, this science-first thinking. Now, some of those companies, obviously will be in life sciences, but there's so many other areas. We've seen teams building in everything from weather prediction to tabular foundation models to new world models. These areas, these frontiers of AI, which are still incredibly hard, incredibly technical, you've got to get them right? You can't accept the same hallucination rate or failure rate for a life sciences company as you ever could for a media style company or an image distribution or video creation company. But what's clear is in the UK, generally speaking, and there are exceptions to this rule, we lean far more towards the former.
When I was an investor, one of the things that people often used to say in the United States is, hey, the UK is a great ecosystem, but your TAM is constrained. And so there's a sort of effective cap people have psychologically on how many massive outcomes you can have emanating from the UK. That is totally shifting, because now we're getting companies that are building in Britain, but building for the world, and continuing on that trajectory of staying in Britain and continuing to build and scaling for the world. What do you think is the particular opportunity in AI for how we can make sure that Britain keeps on that journey of keeping our best companies here, but in a way that is absolutely turbocharging them to scale across the world?
Yeah, so this is a point I feel very passionate about, because I've been in venture based out of the UK for 15 years now. And so when I started in venture, a lot of people said, what's that? And then a couple of years in, everyone said, well, Britain doesn't have any technology companies. And then a few more years in, everyone said, well, you've got technology companies, but you don't have any unicorns. And then a few more years in, just 5 years ago, we became easily the European leader in unicorns. I think we're the third in terms of a number of unicorns per nation in the world, and the ecosystems exploded. And then people were saying, okay, you've got some companies valued at $1 billion, but not really worth it. They don't, they can't raise $1 billion, or they don't have revenues of $1 billion. And over the course of last year, that's also totally changed. So over time, we've seen this phenomenal flywheel effect where the experiences, the ambitions, and the capabilities of companies, technology companies based in the UK has just expanded and expanded and expanded. And now, of course, people turn around and say, well, you've got companies raising $1 billion, but when are you going to have them raising $10 billion? Or you're going to see your first $1 trillion software company? I think those are fair questions, but it shows already the speed and the scale at which ambitions are being raised. And the nice thing about being in the UK is you have this global community of researchers at your fingertips. You have Britain as this phenomenal place to raise money, the rule of law here, a strong heritage in science and technology, British people generally being relatively early adopters of new technology themselves. So you have all of that domestically. But because, as you said, we're a relatively small nation compared to the likes of America or China, you have to think globally from day one to be successful. But the great thing is they know they can base their researchers here, they can base their teams here, they can scale the business from here and go out to the rest of the world in a way which, if you're based in a large domestic market, you may not have the same incentives to do.
So tell us a little bit about your experiences of working with a team, of engaging with government, how we can make sure that we are moving fast and fixing things
Yes.
in the context of sovereign AI in the state.
I came in with some trepidation into this role, as I'm sure lots of people may have looked externally and thought, how is this going to work? But actually, if you look at what we've managed to achieve in a very short period of time, we're starting up a team very quickly. We've got some incredible experts internally at allocating compute, as well as making sure that we can allocate capital. We're working through all the other parts of our offer, which may include things like AMCs, procurement, things around talent. And we've done all of that faster, I think, than if we'd been an independent private company. I mean, even our website, we managed to stand up very quickly, thanks to the excellence of the team here. And so all of that actually has been really reassuring. Now, we have to get all of that right with proper governance. Ultimately, we have a single LP, as we say in the venture world. We have single investors, and that's the taxpayer. So we're going to allocate this capital. We're going to take risk. We're doing it in a way which we hope creates a commercial return for the taxpayer. But there's elements there which are unique to what we do. We have all of this support from the government, but we've got to make sure we've got proper governance as well, which is why we've set up sort of a completely politically independent process within DCIT to make sure we're properly governed, that we're reporting, that we're accountable, and we've got a strategy that's aligned with the rest of the government. That's been a unique experience to me as well, getting that right. Different stakeholders, different people with different kinds of interests and expertise. But we're getting there, and we have gone from kicking off a hiring process and kicking off a legal structure just at the beginning of this year, basically, to our full launch in April. And to be honest with you, I don't think there would be many new funds who would be able to achieve the same thing. So I'm very happy with so far what we've managed to do. Obviously, this is just the first step of the journey. Getting launched, getting set up, having the right people around you is step one. What's amazing is on our launch day, we already have entrepreneurs who want to work with us, and we're sort of finding ways to work with them, whether it's on compute or capital, from day one.
Amazing. And one of the things I've observed already in Parliament is that there is huge excitement and interest in sovereign AI in Parliament as well. And I think that reflects this deeper public premium on British sovereignty when it comes to questions of technology as well. And I think by being able to build this in the way that we are, deeply partnering with investors and founders, but doing so in the context of the state, builds a much more durable consensus behind technology long term in an AI landscape that frankly is as full of people worried about AI as it is with people optimistic about AI. So I think there's a big kind of public narrative purpose here as well.
And how do you feel, because obviously as Minister for AI, you have both of these worlds to look after, right? You meet with the entrepreneurs and the investors who say, these companies are the most exciting things in the world, but also you have your constituents and you have your other stakeholders within government who care deeply about the safety side as well. How do you see, both as the Minister and the government as a whole, managing to protect both those angles?
To me, the central thing has been that a lot of the political and policy questions are often framed as, should we go faster or should we go slower? Should we stop this, or should we just get on the train? And instead, the fundamental framing has to be not whether we can go faster or slower, because the train's going to move regardless. The question is, do we have agency in shaping the direction of the train, or are we just going to get run over by it? And when you frame it in those terms, this belief that ultimately what we're fighting for in the question of technology is the question of British agency, then both of those questions of opportunity and risk actually are the same question, which is, can we shape this in the light of British values, with British founders, with the British public and British politics being able to shape the direction of it as well. And so to me, the essential precondition of exercising agency is to exercise British leverage, to build here, build for the world, and as a result of doing that, build with British values as well.
And I think that every founder I meet with, they want to be on the train, as it were. They want Britain to be on that train.
James, we've got this amazing Solve AI unit set up. We're going through building the team as well. What should founders, investors, the British public, what should we expect of the next big milestone for the team and the work?
Well, we want founders to get in touch with us now. You can go on the website, sovereignai.gov.uk, fill out the form and tell us what you're building, right? We want to engage with people now. We'll be launching publicly on April 16th. We're hosting a big event at Wave, one of the most exciting businesses, I think, being built here in Britain and building safe AI globally. We'll be announcing the team there as well, and some more members of the team will be joining over the coming months. And we'll be announcing our first range of investments within the next few months as well. And so hopefully, if you're interested in what we're doing, you can follow us on all the social media channels, but you're going to see a lot of progress between now and in just a few weeks' time.
Amazing. And then one of the things I'm really passionate about is that, unlike, say, parts of the last wave of software as a service, in this wave of AI, we go back to our British heritage of spreading opportunity right across the country without any compromise on quality. We have amazing photonic setups in Southampton and Scotland, semiconductors in Bristol, South Wales. We have the huge history of Manchester as well. Obviously, the Atomic Energy Agency in Culham has been a part of our AI growth zones as well. Applied Sciences in Leeds as well. Tell us a little bit about how you think about the importance of place and making sure that we're retaining that sense of pride and place as we build for AI.
Yeah, well, look, we're in the Churchill rooms here, and at the end of the war, just as the war was finishing, I believe, that £30,000, which at the time was quite a lot of money, was given by the government to Manchester University to build the Manchester Baby, the first ever stored memory computer, which kicked off a whole range of initiatives. And obviously, we hope that maybe some of the work we do at Solve AI and across government will kick off similar sort of nationwide renewal. You mentioned some of the breakthroughs, we've seen across the country, some of the areas, whether that's in photonics, it's the great work being done at Edinburgh University with their AI labs, it's the continued work in novel materials being done in Manchester. But actually the really exciting opportunity around adoption and development of new AI companies is it's getting out of just this sort of software world and getting into industry, whether that is high finance, whether that is materials research, whether it's chemicals production. And the UK has many different areas of excellence across all those different sectors across the country. So Solve AI will be working with people across the country. We'll be going up to Edinburgh for the AI group there. We're going to go out to Bristol, spend time with the Isambard team there, and of course all of our other universities. But what I'm really hoping is that people from across the country get in touch with us so we can start working with them.
I love this. I love the 30,000 Manchester Baby example. There are so many of these gems, existence proofs that this has been done really well before and can be done again. If you look at, for example, Inmos started by the British government and then becoming the root of where ARM came out of, or you look at Acorn, the BBC was the first customer that said, we want a BBC computer. Acorn produced it, then became ARM Holdings down the track as well. So lots of examples of this. James, as you said, you've been in the ecosystem for 15 years. It's changed a huge amount. Tell us about how you think that ecosystem has consistently beaten a sense of lower expectations about what Britain could do at every single turn and what that bodes for in terms of AI progress.
Look, AI is all about scaling laws, and there is a British AI scaling law, and we're seeing it right now. When I started 15 years ago, no one had heard of a technology unicorn. We didn't have much in the way of technology companies. That changed. And then everyone said, well, now you have these unicorns. How many of them are real businesses? How many of them are making billions of dollars in revenue or raising $1 billion of revenue? And in just the last year, that's changed. Now we're in the world where people are rightly asking, where's your $100 billion business? Where's your $1 trillion business? How are they impacting the British public? And I can see the scaling law, and I think that's going to happen a lot quicker than people think.